I was born into a family whose name frequently flashes across stock exchange tickers, hinting at wealth beyond the average person's imagination. You might think this paved a smooth path for me with opportunities knocking frequently, but the reality is I've always sought a more grounded existence. Despite my father's prestigious position at the helm of a well-known company and the opulent lifestyle it could afford, my story diverges from that of the stereotypical affluent heir. I'm not the princess of privilege draped in luxury brands or accustomed to champagne breakfasts. Instead, I've carved out a simpler, more authentic life, rich with experiences that money can't procure. My journey has led me down the path of event management, helping those in need, and embracing a life that might seem ordinary to some, but is extraordinarily fulfilling to me. I'm just Mia, not defined by my last name or wealth. One ordinary evening transformed unexpectedly when my friend Luna insisted we needed a night out. We found ourselves in a local dive bar, a place where the drinks are affordable and the dim lighting forgives past mistakes. Luna was excited about introducing me to someone she'd met online, claiming he was just my type. However, as the evening unfolded, it wasn't Luna's online acquaintance who caught my attention, but Mateo. Mateo appeared as unexpectedly as a twist in a novel, his presence in the dive bar as out of place as a cat at a dog show. With a casual t-shirt, jeans, and an effortlessly charming smile, Mateo didn't seem intent on impressing anyone. As we started talking, I found the conversation refreshingly easy. He spoke about his job managing a small, obscure company with a passion that was downright infectious. "You really love your job, huh?" I asked over a beer. His enthusiastic response indicated he did, and his genuine interest in my event management impressed me without a hint of pretense. As the night progressed, we naturally gravitated toward each other, the conversation flowing as easily as the drinks. It was a relief to talk to someone who wasn't interested in networking or boasting about financial conquests. When the night was nearing its end, Mateo suggested we go out for dinner sometime, just the two of us. The offer, both direct and tinged with a hint of shyness, was as refreshing as his company had been all evening. I agreed, trying to keep my response casual, though internally, I was excited. As Luna and I headed home, her teasing remarks of "I told you so" filled the car, but my thoughts were on the evening's pleasant surprises and the potential of new beginnings with Mateo. This unexpected turn of events was just the beginning of something new, marking a shift from casual outings to more intimate gatherings, usually at my place due to Mateo's roommate situation. Little did I know, my life was on the cusp of changing profoundly, all from one night out that proved serendipitous in the most unexpected way. One quiet evening, lounged on the sofa, and just finished with what could easily be dubbed the most ordinary takeout pizza, Mateo glanced my way. His eyes held a serious gleam, but his voice was light. "Mia, what do you think about making this arrangement a bit more permanent?" he asked, his mouth still dusted with crumbs. I arched an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting we split a Netflix account? Or are you hinting at something bigger?" He chuckled, wiping away the crumbs. "Actually, I was thinking more along the lines of building a life together. But sure, we could start with Netflix." It was all very simple and straightforward. No elaborate gestures or dramatic settings, just the two of us in our most natural element. It felt perfectly right. "Mateo, if you're asking what I think you're asking, then yes, 1,000 times yes." And just like that, amidst the lingering scent of cheap pizza, we decided to get married. It was a quick decision, but when you're sure, you're sure. Breaking the news to our families was the next challenge. My parents, successful and sociable, had always preached the "as long as you're happy" philosophy, but this was a real test. I announced our plans during a formal dinner, where the array of silverware was daunting. "Mom, Dad, I'm marrying Mateo," I blurted out. Dad paused, fork in midair. "Mateo, the project coordinator? That's rather sudden," he managed to say. Mom gave a tight-lipped smile. "Dear, are you sure? This seems quite abrupt." But I stood firm. "Yes, I'm sure. He's wonderful, and we're very happy together." Their skepticism was clear, but so was their love. "Well, if he makes you happy, darling," Mom finally conceded, and Dad nodded his agreement. Meeting Mateo's parents was an entirely different experience. At their home, always filled with the aroma of something delicious, Eleanor and Owen were incredibly warm and grounded. Mateo, yes, we're thinking something small and soon. Nothing too fancy, I replied, observing their reactions. Eleanor beamed. Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful. We're so thrilled for you both. Their enthusiasm was a comforting contrast to my parents' cautious optimism. Despite the differences in our backgrounds, the shared joy for me and Mateo was palpable. We planned the wedding to be simple and true to us, a small ceremony with close friends and family, and of course, an open bar. If we're doing this, we're making sure everyone has a good time, Mateo had said. The wedding went smoothly, not because we rushed, but because everything naturally fell into place. Amid the excitement, there were quiet moments shared between us, confirming we were doing the right thing. And indeed, we were. Life with Mateo began just as I had hoped, wonderful and more. We had crafted a quaint little haven within the confines of a cozy, modern apartment I had found. It was our personal slice of paradise, brimming with love, laughter, and a mountain of takeout boxes, clear evidence that neither of us would be crowned culinary masters anytime soon. As time went on, I began to notice how Mateo's parents, Eleanor and Owen, had a knack for subtly suggesting things they admired or desired during their visits. At first, their remarks were almost charming. "Oh, Mia, that coffee maker is wonderful. It must make mornings so much easier," Eleanor would comment, her eyes fixed on our sleek new gadget with an unmistakable sparkle. Or Owen might remark, "This sofa is heavenly. Our old one has been torturing my back," as he settled into its plush embrace. Eager to be a thoughtful daughter-in-law, I found myself gifting them items occasionally, a new coffee maker for Eleanor, a plush sofa for their living room, and so forth. Initially, their reactions were a blend of astonishment and mild guilt. "Oh, Mia, you really shouldn't have. This is just too much," Eleanor would gasp, her hands clutching her chest. But human nature can be intriguing. Offer a little, and often they'll expect more. Their subtle hints soon evolved into less than subtle suggestions. "Wasn't dinner at your parents' lovely, dear? Did you see their new TV? It's crystal clear. Ours is practically from the Stone Age," Mateo would share, parroting his parents' latest remarks, unaware of the shift in their tone. One evening, after spending quite a sum on a state-of-the-art television for them, Mateo and I lounged on the couch, my head in his lap. "They really adore the TV, babe. You're amazing, you know that," he said, fingers gently combing through my hair. I exhaled deeply, feeling the burden of their growing expectations. "Mateo, do they expect us to keep this up? It's becoming a bit overwhelming, isn't it?" His fingers paused mid-stroke. "What do you mean?" "They're just happy, that's all," he replied, confused. "Happy, or exploiting our generosity?" I countered, sitting up to face him directly. "It feels like we've become their personal shopping network." Mateo looked genuinely surprised, his forehead creasing. "They're not like that, Jess. They just aren't used to nice things," he defended. "But where does it end, Mateo? They've developed a taste for it now, and they're not looking back," I argued, my voice tinged with frustration. Our conversation ended in an uneasy truce, but it was evident we were not on the same page. Eleanor and Owen's initial gratitude had slowly morphed into entitlement, placing a strain on our relationship, especially on me. I loved Mateo dearly, but I was not prepared to be an endless ATM for his parents. When my father's business faced tough times, it felt as if the ground beneath me had vanished. That comfortable life vanished in an instant, and with it, our relationship dynamics darkened dramatically. The change wasn't gradual, it was as abrupt as night following day. Breaking the news to Mateo and his parents was daunting, marking a pivotal, challenging conversation in our lives. I had been dreading this conversation, knowing things were about to become difficult. "Listen up," I began, trying to steady my voice despite the tremor betraying my nerves. "Dad's company is failing, and we're headed for some tough times." Mateo's response hit me hard. "You're kidding, right? You mean to tell me we can't live like we used to because of your dad's mistakes? His words felt cold and cutting. For a moment, I wished I could disappear as Eleanor and Owen looked on, their disappointment poorly concealed. This is quite the predicament you've put us in, Mia, Owen said, his voice heavy with reproach. The warmth and friendship we once enjoyed had vanished, replaced by a chilly expectation that I was somehow to blame for my family's financial woes. Moving in with them, a solution meant to be temporary, felt more like a prison sentence. Our once independent life was reduced to living in a guest room that felt more like a cage, under the watchful eyes of 3 people who clearly viewed us as a burden. The house was filled with tension every day, a constant reminder of my perceived failure. "We're cutting back on everything," Eleanor would remind me sharply as she served meals that were a far cry from the lavish dinners we once enjoyed. Owen would chime in about saving costs, "Make sure those lights are off. We're not running a charity here." But dealing with Mateo was the hardest part. The man I had married seemed to have disappeared, replaced by someone who viewed me as a failure. "Can't you talk to your dad? It's like you don't even care that we're living like this," he would snap, his anger flaring over trivial matters. Our conversations, once easy and hopeful, had turned into minefields. "I thought marrying you meant security, not this struggle," he would throw at me during arguments, his words slicing through me. It was clear that we were not just facing financial stress, but a severe test of our relationship, revealing true colors under pressure. Caught between the disillusionment of my husband and his parents and grappling with my own sense of failure, every day was a battle. Eleanor's birthday dinner, intended as a cozy family outing at a posh restaurant to ease the tensions, instead became a battleground. We were all seated, menus in hand, and I was trying to keep the peace, hoping to blend into the background. But that plan was shattered the moment orders began to be placed. Mateo, with a smirk that sent shivers down my spine, suggested, "Let's get the steak and lobster for us," then added with a cruel glance my way, "Mia can stick to the soup of the day. We need to save where we can, right?" Laughter erupted around the table as if it were the funniest joke they'd heard in ages. Eleanor chimed in, "Absolutely. We can't have Mia overspending now, can we?" I felt a rush of heat. Not from embarrassment, but from pure fury. "Really, soup? Was this some sort of twisted joke?" I raised my voice louder than I meant to, frustration edging every word. "Oh, come on, Mia. It's just a bit of fun," Mateo replied, his smirk unwavering. That's when I lost my temper. "Fun? You call this fun? When things get tough, you just show how petty you truly are. I can't believe I was fooled by your act." The entire restaurant fell silent, every eye on us. I didn't sit back down. "Keep your fancy food and your pathetic jokes. I'm done," I announced, standing so quickly my chair almost fell over. The sound caught more attention, turning heads our way. Mateo reached out, trying to calm things down. "Mia, don't. Let's not make a scene." "A scene? You think I care about making a scene after what you've done? This is about respect, something you clearly lack," I retorted, pulling my arm away and heading for the exit, feeling the weight of everyone's stares. Stepping outside was like breaking free from confinement. My phone was buzzing, Mateo, no doubt, attempting to smooth things over. I ignored it, my decision firm. I drove to his place, a storm of emotions brewing within me. How had our relationship soured so quickly? We were supposed to be a team, but that dinner had been a stark wake-up call I couldn't ignore. Back at his house, I packed my bags quickly, each item a reminder of the life I was leaving behind. It wasn't just about leaving a place. It was about escaping a relationship that had finally shown its true colors. I turned off my phone, shutting out the continuous stream of messages. The silence was unsettling yet comforting. That night marked not just the end of a disastrous dinner, but also the closure of a chapter one had no desire to revisit. After the disaster at Eleanor's birthday dinner, I found myself driving to my parents' house. The night was quiet, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. By the time I arrived at their driveway, my mind was made up. I needed sanctuary, yes, but more importantly, I needed advice, something only my father could provide. Walking into the house, the familiarity was both comforting and jarring. My mother was asleep, but my father was awake in his study, surrounded by papers that suddenly seemed insignificant. "Mia, what are you doing here at this hour? Is everything okay?" he asked, standing with concern etched on his face. I took a deep breath, the evening's events spilling out. I told him about the dinner, about Matteo and his parents, and how I felt reduced to nothing more than a source of their income. My dad listened in silence, his expression growing firmer with each word. When I finished, he sighed, a sound laden with experience and a hint of sorrow. "Mia, I saw this coming. I just hoped I was wrong," he said, his voice steady but empathetic. "How could I have been so blind, Dad? I thought Matteo and I were different," I lamented, feeling the heaviness of my naivety. He walked over and put an arm around my shoulders. "You wanted to see the best in him, in them," he comforted, showing the wisdom only a parent can offer in such moments. "It's true that there's no fault in tough times revealing people's true colors. It's a hard lesson, but a crucial one." I nodded, the truth of his words slowly sinking in. "But what do I do now?" "I can't go back there," I asked, feeling lost. "You'll stay here to start with," he replied reassuringly. "As for the rest, we'll figure it out together," he said, his confidence soothing my frayed nerves. Then he shared something unexpected. "You know, the company situation isn't as bad as it seems. We're actually close to a major breakthrough. It was all a strategic move to see who was really with us and who was just here for the ride." I stared at him, stunned. "So, you mean we're not broke?" I asked. He chuckled, a mix of relief and amusement in his voice. "Far from it. But it was important to see who would stick around when things looked grim. Unfortunately, Matteo and his family showed their true nature. The revelation was a lot to take in. My anger towards Matteo and his parents was now mixed with a sense of triumph. They had shown their true intentions, and in doing so, had liberated me from a future of manipulation and deceit. "Dad, I don't know whether to feel relieved or furious," I admitted, the emotions battling inside me. "Be both." "It's okay," he advised, "but remember, this experience has taught you something invaluable about people and their intentions. Learn from it." The next day, as I approached Eleanor and Owen's house, it felt like entering enemy territory. I was ready for a confrontation, but nothing could have prepared me for the icy welcome I received. Matteo stood there, divorce papers in hand, his expression one of disdain. "Here you go. Let's get this over with," he said, thrusting the papers at me. His parents hovered behind, barely hiding their delight at finally getting rid of the freeloader. Eleanor snickered, and Owen nodded smugly. Matteo added, "Turns out you're just an ordinary person without your daddy's money. Thought you'd break down crying. But hey, we really don't need a weepy mess around here." Their words were meant to hurt, but they didn't touch me the way they expected. I felt a strange mix of anger and liberation. I looked at the papers, then back at them, and without a word, signed where I needed to. As I did, their smiles broadened, thinking they had won. But I had the last laugh. Pulling out a newspaper from my bag, I slammed it on the table harder than necessary. "Thought you might find this interesting," I said, my voice thick with satisfaction. The headline announced my dad's company's monumental comeback, profits soaring higher than ever. Watching their faces lose color was a spectacle I'd pay to see again. Eleanor and Owen's smugness vanished, replaced by shock and then desperation. Matteo's arrogance crumbled, leaving him looking like a child who had just lost his favorite toy. Eleanor suddenly switched tactics, stepping towards me with arms wide open. "Oh, my sweet girl, this is all a big misunderstanding. Let's hug it out," she said. Owen, ever the opportunist, chimed in. "Let's not rush things. Sit down, have a coffee, and we can talk this through." And Matteo, oh Matteo, he was the picture of regret. "I was wrong, okay? We can fix this. I want to make things right, please," he pleaded. Their sudden change of heart was almost comical. I couldn't help but laugh at their transparent desperation. There was a profound, soul-cleansing sound that reverberated through me. "You two are truly remarkable," I remarked. However, I had an important realization to share with them. It was time to end the deception, the manipulation, and the pretense of family that only valued me for my wealth. As I turned to leave, their objections and pleas gradually faded into the background. They called out to me, their voices tinged with desperation and disbelief, but I did not turn around. Not this time. After the dramatic scene at Eleanor and Owen's house, I knew I was completely done. Not just with them, but with the entire tumultuous saga that my life had become. I sought a new beginning, a fresh page. I retreated to my parents' house, taking time to recalibrate my thoughts and emotions. A few weeks after finalizing my divorce, I went out for coffee with Luna, my steadfast friend who had supported me through everything. "You seem so much lighter," she observed as she sipped her latte. I laughed, feeling freer than I had in months. "You have no idea. It's like I can finally breathe again," I said. Luna looked at me intently, her tone serious. "So, what's next for you, Jess? You've got a clean slate now." I mulled over her question while stirring my coffee absent-mindedly. "I'm not sure, but I'm excited to find out. Maybe I'll travel, get back into some event management." I had a pause. As for love, I paused, giving her a knowing smile. "I think I'll skip that for a while. Just make sure you're doing what makes you happy, okay? You deserve it after all that drama," she said, squeezing my hand. "Thanks, Luna. That's the plan." Not long after that conversation, my phone buzzed incessantly with calls and messages from Mateo. He was pleading, claiming he had changed, that we could start anew. His parents even joined in, sending messages filled with apologies and invitations to reconcile. Sitting in my room, phone in hand, I couldn't help but laugh at the audacity of it all. I typed out a response I had been contemplating for days. "Mateo, moving on means moving forward, not going back to what broke you. I wish you all the best, but this is where our paths end for good. Take care." Sending that message felt like turning the final page of a book I'd been stuck in for too long. In the months that followed, I immersed myself in my work, dedicated myself to volunteering, and even booked a solo trip to a destination I'd always dreamed of visiting. Life was full and, for the first time in a long while, genuinely satisfying. One evening, as I sat on a balcony overlooking a bustling street in a distant city, I realized I had found the peace I had been searching for. The drama, heartache, and betrayal felt like distant memories. My phone buzzed with a message from an unfamiliar number. Hesitantly, I opened it. It was from someone I had met during my travels, someone who had made me laugh and think in equal measure. "Hey Mia, how about dinner when you're back?" No expectations, just food and good company. A smile spread slowly across my face. Maybe it was time to open my heart again, but on my terms at my pace. "Yes, I'd like that," I typed back, hitting send before I could second-guess myself. As I looked out at the city lights, I felt a surge of excitement for the future. I had moved on not just from Mateo and his family, but from the person I was when I was with them. I was stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next.